What is good, guys? So, thought I'd come in and give you a little weekly update. Not that many people really do care about what I do, but just in case there is some that do. Oh, complete strength salted caramel. The best flavour, whey isolate. A couple of cracks of salt in there. Blended with some ice, almond milk. It's like having like a milkshake every day. Unreal. So, anyway, I am currently at week 4 of my massive Meso. Got 1 week left. Rest day for me today, so literally just got back from doing steps. I'm absolutely soaked. Yeah, a couple of little things to talk on, I guess, this week. Training is starting to take its toll. I'm starting to feel that fatigue carrying over from session to session. So predominantly, volume through the lower body is obviously a little bit higher than everywhere else, just because I'm still trying to progress at a good steady rate on the lower body whilst focusing on bringing up the chest during this 5-week massing block. Like I said, this final week here, sorry, second to last week here, I'm just starting to notice in between my upper sessions that fatigue carrying over straight away from session to session. Like, not, 3-4 exercises into the workout, feeling a little bit sore, a little bit of pump and a bit of a, training soreness. But like, I'm doing my warm-up sets of the first exercise. I'm like, fuck me, my chest is still in pieces from that last session. The giant sets are getting up to like 60 reps. So they're not light sets, and they do take my time. They do take a long time to get bust through when you're trying to use a weight that you can only move 6 to 8 reps of before failing. So yeah, I'm definitely starting to notice it, man. I'm coming back from my leg workouts and I'm crashing hard. Like, I'm trying to reduce the amount of pre I'm taking so that I don't get such a drop off at the end of, eat some food, insulin dump, and just crash on the sofa, because it's not good for productivity. But yeah, I'm definitely starting to notice that accumulation of fatigue now. It's getting to that point now where, I guess I've got a lot going on right at the moment in the background. So aside from training, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on from a coaching aspect, from other ventures, and a few new exciting stuff coming up that I'm working on, and a few potentials in the pipeline. And I guess you could say the allostatic load is quite a lot currently, and usually it's quite manageable, but the training fatigue is just starting to tip to that point now where it's becoming a bit, I'm noticing it anyway, memory lag, concentration, focus, work productivity is starting to take a little bit of a hit. So I know this next week is going to be a struggle. Now, I'm saying this all like, I'm struggling. I'm not, but I'm just very, very aware of every part, like little bit of input that goes into what accumulates in that total stress factor. And I'm starting to feel it. I'm very aware of the situation. I know how to cope. I know how to adjust to make things easier. Trying to get some more sleep in, trying to make sure I'm having them naps where I can. But yeah, it's week 5. I'm nervous for week 5. I'm very, very nervous for week 5. But yeah, training, it's getting good. It's exciting. I like high demand. I thrive in this environment. In the training aspect, it's just managing everything else around it accordingly. Now, calves front, 5 sets per day. Like, at this point, they're just a big swollen ball of mess. Like, there is, every time I look at my check-in shots, I'm like, Jesus Christ, they're carrying a lot of inflammation. So I'm hoping after next week, which is 6 sets a fucking day, I should be okay to, when I deload, to see some of that super compensatory lean tissue build, and see that inflammation wash off, muscle tissue be added, and actually have some improvements in the calves. I keep looking at them and fucking hoping I'm going to look down there one day and be like, oh shit, yeah, I've got a set of calves on me. But yeah, that's training in a nutshell. Nutrition wise, so up until this week, training food has been consistent, right? We come into the growth phase, and my body's been very, very responsive. At the back of that fat loss phase, hypersensitive from that hypercaloric state, boom, straight into growth phase. Now, you can't push food aggressively when you come out the back end of a deficit. Why? Because yes, you're hypersensitive to growing new tissue, but you're also hypersensitive to accumulate fat, and we don't want to run into any potential areas of fat cell or adipose hyperplasia, so the accumulation of new fat cells, or collateral fattening is another word for it, so the addition of new fat cells, because the rate of fat gain is too much and the body sees it fit to create new fat cells, right? Because we can't remove fat cells, only fat from fat cells, so we don't want to add new ones, right? So it's just a case of making sure that coming out of that into a growth block, going from fat loss to growth phase with no maintenance period in between, that you're managing the nutritional adjustment accordingly. So straight away, food has been consistent up until now, and this only going into week 5 has there been the first push in food, and it's only a small push. My sourdough bread's gone up from like 150 with that first meal to 200. So food is still very manageable. Appetite is still firing. I'm still extremely hungry. I've got off-plan meals in, and it's quite nice that I'm in a comfortable relationship. We're here with my food to, you know, track my Sunday. So today, like, track my food. So I have 2 of my normal meals, and then I'll have my shake and my berries, which are, you know, just see me drinking, and my berries are here. Like 700 grams of berries. Oh, love it. And then I've got, you know, the cereal from that meal, and then I've got 2 other meals to play with here of calories worth to make up what will probably be some kind of chicken burger and maybe some cookies and ice cream afterwards, you know. So I'm in a very, very good position here to manipulate calories to still have that, you know, time when, obviously, when Zoe's not, I usually sneak it upstairs and eat it because, you know, prep life, she's 6 weeks out. So I don't want her seeing the food or smelling the food. But so yeah, just mitigating, you know, being a bit steadier with that jump in food, and then watching how weight moves, right? So long as weight is jumping up periodically 0.5 to 1% of total body weight per week, there's no need to push anything extra in until maybe we hit like a little bit of a plateau stage, which where we're at now, week 4. You know, the weight's kind of not jumped up like it was. Drug load's obviously been moving from week to week progressively up to that 20 milligram per kilogram mark where it is at now. So we are using over 2 grams of gear now, and I'll obviously talk to you about that in a moment. But yeah, so it's got to this point now where weight's kind of been steadily increasing at the perfect rate that we wanted, without having to push food, without having to force food, which is the optimal position, right? Everyone thinks, you know, yeah, off season or growth phase, push food, push food, push food. If you're growing on like how I describe making progress, right? In a growth phase, you want to grow on as little food and as little drugs as possible. And in a fat loss phase, you want to lose fat with as much food and as little drugs as possible. They're the 2 little things for it, in my opinion, right? So to keep stress as minimal as possible, and to be in like the optimal position. So yeah, food growing in a nice spot. I'm nice and responsive. It's doing the job. No need to push. Going into this next block, it'd be interesting to see where I land. I'd hope to be in similar, you know, if not exactly the same condition when I land, especially with this drug load, which I'll come on to now. Currently, we'll go through the exciting stuff. Insulin is still at 10 units per day, so 5 units, say insulin. Be nice if I told you guys what type of insulin, because that does leaves, you know, there's 4 different types of insulin. Which one am I talking about? So Nova Rapid, fast acting, rapid acting insulin. Pre and post workout, 5 units with my pre-workout meal, 5 units with my post-workout meal, just to get that, you know, nutrient partitioning of glycogen in that first meal and in that post-workout meal to aid in the recovery. Growth hormone hasn't changed. It dropped down to 4 units during the fat loss phase from 6 at the peak of the growth, split in 2 doses, and it stayed at 4 units this whole way through, even now into this growth phase. 2 units in the morning fasted and 2 units in the evening. I know there is plans to push that back up to 6 again in the next block, but for now it's staying the same. And then we have a basal insulin working in the background to alleviating stress off the pancreas. Still there, still 20 units. That hasn't changed at all, and there's never really any need to go above that unless you may be in like a peak week situation where you're ramming loads of food in, trying to get that peak glycogen retention and fullness. But so yeah, at the moment they're all pretty consistent. They haven't needed to change, and probably won't change until, like I said, growth hormone in the next block. Now on the anabolics front, I am going to quickly just double check my phone before I read these numbers off wrong, but as I said, we've been manipulating the androgen to estrogen ratio, right? And I think I said in my last video, now that the androgens are quite high, well, extremely high, that DHT derivative primo and mast split 50-50 has now hit like 1.5 grams per week. Let me just double check before I'm talking up my squeaky bum hole here. Yeah, so as I said, we've been manipulating that androgen to estrogen ratio, right? And as androgens have escalated, we are now at a very, very good set point with, you know, DHT derivative being at like 1.5 grams total load per week. So I've been using 1500 mgs split 50-50 of Mastron and Primo still. This last week, run out of Mast, so I had to use all Primo. Not the end of the world, and in all honesty, probably a little bit safer on the health aspect to use all Primobolan, being that, you know, we can take Primo to these extents. You know, when you say to people, oh yeah, well, I'm using like 1.5 grams or something, they're like, whoa, shit. Like, no, it's not 1.5 grams of Tren. It's not 1.5 grams of testosterone alone. It's 1.5 grams of Primobolan. And, you know, looking at the clinical studies, Primobolan was used in females, the androgen sensitive, up to 1.2 grams. So in someone who's not androgen sensitive, is 1.5 gram too far out? That spectrum of safer use? Well, you know, the risk reward of everything is always in the eyes of the person doing it, but, you know, from a health and clinical aspect, I'd probably argue that it's not, you know, it's not a massive amount. But anyway, the interesting part, so testosterone is now up to 500 mgs, which is the highest it's been for me in a long time. But like I said, you know, my androgen to estrogen ratio, so I don't get any negative estrogenic feedback, no gynecomastia or anything, is like kind of here. And as the androgens have increased, we've been able to increase the testosterone to keep that ratio in that sweet spot as we've moved. And yeah, I feel on top of the world. I thought as we got close to that 2 gram mark, as we was coming up to it, I was like, oh, I'm getting ready for that, you know, that kind of toxic feeling that you get when drugs get high. I was settling into it, like, oh, it's gonna, you know, I wake up one day and I'm start feeling progressively a little bit like, ugh, you know. It's hard to describe unless you felt it. It's kind of hard to like put a specificity on what that feels like. Almost the way I describe it is you just feel toxic, you know, and mentally, physically, you start feeling a bit shit, a bit slow. Things just aren't kind of progressing as you want. Yeah, in the gym you feel great, like everything moves in the gym, you're strong as hell, but outside the gym, not so much. But this time around, obviously having that, you know, greater conversion of estrogen, I feel on cloud 9. It's a much greater feeling. It really is. I feel very, very healthy and, yeah, just fresh, which I wasn't expecting. You know, it was definitely a bit of a shocker seeing, you know, again, just, you know, first time having that estrogen this high since, you know, when I did my first cycle back in, like, what was it now? It was a long time ago. But yeah, it's a different kettle of fish altogether. It feels very manageable, which I didn't think it would. And that all comes down to that ratio, you know, managing it, mitigating it, keeping expenditure a lot higher this time, you know, sort of between 15 and 18k steps per day. Resting heart rate, HRV, blood pressure, they've all stayed incredibly low. You know, my resting heart rate's never been this low in a long time. God bless the Aura Ring for letting me track that and keep on top of everything. So yeah, I can't really complain. It's been pretty good. Like I said, I am feeling beat up. I am, from a training aspect, I am feeling beat up and taxed, and I can notice that stress, you know, that allostatic load is accumulating from other avenues, like, you know, keeping on top of the business aspect, keeping on top of coaching, and the other areas of my life that get my attention. But yeah, it's all gravy. So I'm looking forward to getting into this last week. Like I said, I'm nervous about the training. I'll let you know, because if my calves make it through the week, they might not. Who knows? I've only taken two days off of calf training. One was by accident, and one was because they was in fucking pain. So it'll be interesting to see how next week goes. See if that is the tipping point of how much volume my calves can put up with. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the weekly update's pretty simple. I mean, it's pretty boring. I know people like watching these kind of things to see what we're actually doing and what we're up to, but yeah, that's where I'm at currently. Going into week 5 of the new block. Very much looking forward to it. Getting butterflies even thinking about it. But yeah, so this evening I've got a podcast with Ryan Brambleby and the classic ghost, Mr. Leon. But I'm saying this like that'll probably be up and posted way before this YouTube gets out. But yeah, lots of exciting things going on. There's a lot going on in the background as well that I'm hoping to talk about next week, which will be very, very interesting, guys. So yeah, the educational content will continue. Next week video is, I think we're carrying on with the female series. I think I will be continuing that on. So next week's episode will be out sort of midweek. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next week when I'm battered, my CNS is fried, and I'm ready for a deload. Peace.